How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on this Thursday, the 19th of March. Thanks so much for being with us on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We're streaming at foxsportsfm.com, and we are broadcasting live many a different place. Facebook, Miller and Moulton YouTube channel, Twitter, Miller and Moulton Twitch TV channel, and you can join us in the chat room there as well. 249-8167 is how you can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 249-8167. The Bears have themselves a new quarterback, or do they? Do you think Nick Foles is now the starter in Chicago? And or are they going to have a good old-fashioned quarterback competition? We never have those anymore.
I want to ask Bears fan right now where they think they are in this division. You got Nick Foles. Okay. I'm not a Nick Foles guy. I didn't think it was a good move for Jacksonville. Said it when they did it. He got hurt, so I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Could be dead wrong. He could be great in Chicago. Could be the guy that led the Eagles to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's the case. I think past history shows what Nick Foles is. But as a Bears fan today, yesterday I was with a Bears fan who was shaking his head when he saw this. Just was incredulous at Nick Foles, just baffled by it. I don't know if that's the norm for Bears fan, but where do I asked the question of every Tampa person we had yesterday. Okay, you got Brady. Where are you in the division? Because you're not the best team.
That was our poll question yesterday, in fact.
And second place won out by a pretty big margin. Everybody thinks the Bucs went from, third, fourth, wherever they were, to the second best team in the division. But everybody still thinks the Saints are the team to beat, and I think that's how Vegas will see it. I thought the Bears at best were the third best team in the division when yesterday started. I don't think any differently today. I don't think they're better than the Vikings. I don't think they're better than the Packers. And I don't know how much better they are than a Lions team with a healthy Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I don't like what's going on in Detroit at all. I really don't. I'm not thrilled with the personnel moves that Quinn and the head coach are making. And I'm a huge Stafford guy, but I still see them as the fourth best team in the division. The Vikings is an interesting case study right now, Mark. They are trying to retool, revamp, and yet still remain a viable contender. They let Linville Joseph go. He's a good player, productive player. Well, okay. They made a hard call on him. He is now in his early 30s, and I believe he signed with the Chargers. But they've let other guys go. They're going to lose parts of their secondary, which has been kind of the strength of their defense. And so, they extended Cousins, so they don't have to answer that question for 3 more seasons. The Vikings, to me, are interesting. The Packers have let a few guys go, even a few productive guys go. And they're replacing them with different players. Some is a cheaper alternative. Some they just view as maybe they're better than what we're letting go. I think that what's going on with the Vikings and the Packers is interesting. And Mark, divisions seem to be topsy-turvy these days. Outside of what the Patriots have done, the divisions seem to be topsy-turvy. The Bears went from first to third. Why can't they go to second this year? They were 8-8. They still have the makings of a good team. The feeling is their quarterback play is just not good enough to win. You don't feel Foles is much of an upgrade.
I don't. Well, no, he's an upgrade from Trubisky because Trubisky doesn't look like he can play in the league.
Well, there you go. And that's why this move was made. Now, it's interesting that they chose Foles. They had to give up a draft pick, albeit a compensatory fourth-round pick, but they gave up a draft pick. There are others out there in which all they'd have to do is pay people who wouldn't have to give up the pick. They chose Foles over Cam, Because right now Cam can't work out a deal with anybody. I think most of the league is sitting back going, we're going to wait till they release you. Because then also they could negotiate a new contract. Good or bad. They could make it cheaper, or they could make it longer term, because Cam only has 1 year left on his deal. They also didn't choose Jameis. Now, Nick Foles has won a Super Bowl.
Yes, he has.
A Super Bowl. No. And he did, as a starter, lead the Eagles to the playoffs with Chip Kelly. I mean, he had that 127 touchdown, 2 interception season. Then he kind of fell off the map for 3 years.
Well, and that's where I think I want to ask you this too, because of that season, David. You always go back to that, and rightly so. You're more in the Nick Foles camp than I am, and you've pointed that season out when he had Chip Kelly. So I ask you, with Nagy in an offense that probably is more similar to Chip than any offense he's run. Well, and we don't know because they brought his OC down. He got hurt last year. You got to throw last year away. And then he came back and didn't play well. Okay, Jacksonville was a mess. Do you think just a change of scenery and this coach will resurrect Nick Foles?
I don't know if he needs to be resurrected, Mark. I think if you do what you just asked us to do, which is wipe last season out. Got hurt, how many snaps into the season? 13, something like that? And on a touchdown pass, I believe. If you just wipe last season out, Mark, if that's the case, then essentially the Bears are acquiring Nick Foles off of the 2018 season when Nick Foles came in late in the year for Carson Wentz, won a bunch of games, got him in the playoffs, and then went to Chicago and beat the Bears in the playoffs, and went to New Orleans, and if not for an Alshon Jeffrey drop late, might have also beaten the Saints. So are the Bears acquiring that Nick Foles? Because if you wipe the slate clean, if you can just say, hey, 2019 didn't happen, if they're acquiring that Nick Foles, I mean, imagine, Mark, if this deal had been made a year ago. Now, first off, I think Bears fans would have been confused. Wait a minute, we just went 12-4 with Trubisky. I thought he's on his way up. But if they're acquiring that Nick Foles, I mean, that Nick Foles is a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Right. But the guy that played in St. Louis in 2015 that went 4-7 as a starter and threw more picks than touchdowns was a grease fire. So right. I get you that I'll have no problem wiping 2019 clean, but I don't think you can just say you're getting the guy that won the Super Bowl, because you also have the guy that got released in St. Louis because he was so bad he couldn't play.
I mean, Mark, he's not nearly as good, obviously, but Nick Foles' career has a little Kurt Warner to it. I mean, it really does.
Yeah, I think you could safely call him a poor man's Kurt Warner, and I can get away with it. I see where you're at with that.
You know, the terrific 2013 season, obviously we all know what Warner did with the Rams, and then Warner had a 3-4 year period of time in which he was kind of in the abyss. And then he, late with the Arizona Cardinals, he takes him to a Super Bowl, and then the next year he takes him to the playoffs, and he retires, and everybody goes, what are you retiring for? You're a premier quarterback in this league. He's like, it's time. And so he's a Jekyll and Hyde quarterback. There does not seem to be a middle ground. But, Mark, what this screams, though, is that the coach and the GM know their job's on the line. And they have decided, in all likelihood, that they are not putting their job in the hands of Mitch Trubisky. Which is very interesting for the general manager, Ryan Pace, because obviously he traded up in the draft to take Trubisky. And we all know the two quarterbacks that were taken after Trubisky. You know, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. So Ryan Pace, and we do ask this of personnel guys in all sports. Hey, put your ego aside. Don't just stick with so-and-so because you drafted him. It looks to me as if Ryan Pace is willing to put his ego aside and say, listen, I may have been wrong. And whether I'm wrong or not, I can't put my family's livelihood in the hands of Mitchell Trubisky going forward. I just can't do it. Sorry. Or is Foles brought in as Tannehill?
See, and that's
more accomplished, more expensive Tannehill, in which it's still Trubisky's gig, but he's got no wiggle room.
That's what I think. And David, when you said I think he's starting, I thought this was a Tannehill situation. Wouldn't be the first time I was wrong, won't be the last. I just think that they're going, to me, it's still the same guys that drafted Trubisky. How do you get away with dumping him? And I know what you said, hey, we made a mistake, and I think a lot of people would be fine with that. But I don't know how you can cut the cord this quickly on Trubisky coming off the 2 years ago 12-4 year.
249-8167, 249-8167, Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. A lot of Bears fans in Southwest Florida. Your thoughts on the Nick Foles trade and whether or not you want him to start or just him to be I'm ready, tap me on the shoulder, I've got a good record as backup quarterback, I'm ready. And Mark, as you alluded to, if you're Pace and Matt Nagy here, you could start with Trubisky. I mean, sometimes coaches have to consider, if I bench this guy, will I get him back, if you know what I mean. I don't know how mentally strong Trubisky is, Mark. So if you start the year with Foles and you need to turn to Trubisky, is he going to be ready? Or are you better off starting the year with Trubisky because Nick Foles is a pro. And Nick Foles will be ready. Whenever the time comes, you tap him on the shoulder, he'll be ready. He'll come in, he'll do his thing. You could make that case. I'm sorry, Mark. I don't believe they made a deal for a quarterback who's won a Super Bowl to sit him on the bench.
Two great texts. One on the Twitch line, one on Old Faithful here. The Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing Talk and text line 249-8167. Says, hey, Nick Foles looked great with Matt Nagy when he was the Chiefs' backup and Nagy was the OC. Then there's Miller and Moulton fan on Twitch. It says, as an Eagles fan, none of yous can look back at what a QB accomplished under head coach Andy Reid or head coach Doug Peterson and assume you're getting that QB. After leaving these Eagles, which of these QBs looked reliable starting in the NFL? A.J. Feely, Donovan McNabb, Kevin Kolb, Nick Foles. So two totally different perspectives, David. We don't know what we're getting with Foles. I think it's a Tannehill situation. You think he's starting immediately. I hope you're right that we go. I actually hope the old quarterback competition thing that I love Nagy to say, I don't know who's starting. It is a flat-out open competition. Right on.
Well, yeah, because then also I think you'd find out even more about Trubisky. Can he handle it? Hey, we're putting the heat on you. We're putting it on you. Show us what you got.
And, David, you are right. You mentioned this earlier this morning, that how the teams, I think the Vikings were the first one that I saw do it, announcing from media sources.
Yes.
That
this is brilliant.
Because they can't announce moves. So the Vikings,
nothing's official.
They tweeted out,
physical.
According to media sources.
Correct.
We have heard that the Vikings have traded Stephon Diggs for a first, a third, and a seventh-round pick.
Exactly. The NFL teams are quoting Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and media sources as apparently we've acquired so-and-so. Apparently we traded so-and-so.
But the best one came from the Rams last night. It starts out as a FaceTime call that says super credible source would like to FaceTime. And when it comes on, it's A'Shawn Robinson, who they just signed to a 2-year, $17 million deal. It stops about after he talks for a couple seconds, and an arrow comes up to him, and it says credible source, A'Shawn Robinson. And the tweet says, according to our hashtag sources and multiple hashtag media reports. It is don't ever lose your sense of humor. Don't ever lose your sense of humor. And the NFL and the teams are doing a great job with this.
Hey, they're doing all they can for us. They are trying to go about this as much business as usual as possible. While we were just talking the Bears, because, well, we have a lot of Bears fans in Southwest Florida, a lot of Chicago sports fans that spend a lot of quality time here, if not now live here full time. We don't have a ton of LA Chargers fans. I do just want to throw this out there. Which way do you think the Chargers are going? Because they are indicating as of now, they finished second for Brady. They were all in on Brady. Tampa Bay won the sweepstakes. And their plan B is Tyrod Taylor? Do we believe that? He was the bridge quarterback in Buffalo. They drafted Josh Allen and they moved on from him. He then was going to be the bridge quarterback in Cleveland even after they drafted Baker Mayfield. That lasted 2.5 games. He really hasn't played much in the league since. He did take the Bills to the playoffs. Had a fine season. And the Chargers are a good team on paper. I mean, they really are. They're a good roster.
David,
They're still a good roster.
Here are the things you need to be a good National Football League team. You need a pass rush.
They got it.
They got it.
Yeah.
They got a running back. They've got competent receivers.
They just signed their tight end. They franchise tagged him.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
this roster is still solid. I mean, I'm no longer ever taking the Chargers to win anything again in my life. As long as I'm doing this show, F the Chargers. I've gone with them too long.
Wow. Man. Look at you. That was quite a night you had last night. Man,
no, I'm done with them.
Look at you.
I am done. But
my goodness.
Both of these guys, because both Cam and Jameis have the magic smile. They do.
Well,
no, I mean, I just think of it. I always thought of Cam in L.A. because he reminded me, the smile just reminded me of magic. He has such a great smile. And Jameis is the same way. I would, God bless, I think I'd go Jameis.
All right. There's the fact that they have a roster that's good enough to win right now in the AFC, and look at what they're competing against in their division. Are you really going to try to take down Mahomes and the Chiefs with Tyrod Taylor?
No, I think I would go Jameis.
Say that out loud. Say that out loud and think that you're going to win more games that way. I know you're going to play a different style of ball and all that. That's number one. Or, Mark, or what they really saying is, we're going to draft a quarterback, and we may throw the guy in right away. Now, they don't think they can do that if the quarterback's Tua, but they may be able to do that if the quarterback's Justin Herbert. But they've got a team that can win now, and they're going to put it in the hands of a rookie and or Tyrod Taylor. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. Now, hey, maybe we just need to let a little bit more time go. And maybe they're waiting for Cam to be released because they don't want to give up any draft pick compensation for him. But I am a little surprised that right now that's the direction that they're going because, Mark, if the Chargers are truly not going to pick one of the available quarterbacks to be their starter, that leaves New England as the only starting job left. Cam, Jameis, Andy Dalton about to hit the bench in Cincinnati. Any of those three interest New England? Or is Cam Newton going to be a backup quarterback in the NFL this year? Cam Newton. Cam Newton. And Jameis looks like a backup quarterback right now. I mean, the money and the terms and what have you that he was not interested in signing for in Tampa, is this going to be a legendary, or is he going to go to, say, a Pittsburgh or a Dallas, and he's going to go to a good situation with a good team and a good offensive line and wait his turn and just mature a little bit on the field and learn a little bit more about what it takes to be a leader and then have a nice second act somewhere? and maybe even where he's going to go next, as a backup.
Well, I think you're onto something with the Chargers, because the one thing that we've known is between Tua, between Herbert, between Love. I mean, there's 5 guys going in the first round here, and
don't forget Jacob Eason in Washington.
And Eason, and I think I've thought all along that Eason is the guy that the Chargers are going to end up with unless they move up. Because where are they picking?
Well, they're picking 6. They're right behind the Dolphins.
Yeah, so
the thought is,
I mean,
will they
go Eason or Herbert? Right. Will they go Eason? I don't think they're going to go Tua. I think they're going Eason or Herbert. There have been so many people that have been in love with Herbert from the combine on. I didn't like the guy that I watched play games, David. I'm not a Herbert guy. You're the one that makes bold predictions on quarterbacks a lot more than I do. But what I watched of the Oregon QB, I didn't love him. I didn't think he.
What are the Chargers going to do?
They're going to take Herbert or Eason.
Really thinking, but are they going to play him right away? Because Mark, you can't afford to throw away a year in the NFL. A year is a long time. Look at the Bears. The Bears went from 12-4, winning a division, and thinking in 2019 they were a legitimate Super Bowl threat, to having to win a bunch of games late to go 8-8. And now it looks as if they're moving on from their quarterback that they traded up to take 2nd overall just a few years ago. A year is a long time. Are they really going to waste a year of Hunter Henry and Bosa and all their quality players? Remember, they get Derwin James back this year. They played basically last year without him. They get him back this year. That's an impact player. They've got great players on their team. They really going to let Tyrod Taylor lead that?
No, David, I think you're right. I mean, we've sat here and just said, well, the Dolphins are taking a quarterback. We don't know what the Lions are doing. The Bucs were taking a quarterback. That's done. So now where are the destinations for all of these guys? Because, I mean, Tampa was thought, I mean, you do have to factor this in there. Tampa was thought of as one of the teams that was going to take a quarterback.
Right. Probably Eason, hoping that he'd still be there at 14. Now, they're probably putting that on hold, taking an offensive tackle. Miller and Moulton. Frank Garcia, he played for the Panthers for a long time. He works in the Charlotte market. We're going to talk to Frank coming up next and say, is this a complete teardown? Is this tanking for Trevor? What in the wide world of sports is going on in Carolina? And get his thoughts also about Tom Brady to the Bucs, and what does that do to the NFC South, where Frank spent a long time playing in. Frank Garcia next here on Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.